Yeah, smiling evening to all the community members. Thank you everyone for making this uh, meetup that we are gathering every week. That's wonderful to meet every smiling people here. So today we're gonna talk about exciting meetup, and that is more about database internals. So with a lot of curiosity, I'm not going to waste all of your time. So I'm going to do a lot of hands-on here. But before I do a lot of hands-on here, so basically everyone here would say, we all know, we know how to write a basic SQL query. But the question we all will get in our mindset is, tell me, Venkatesh, how if you write a select star from user, or sometime you say, if I'm writing select star from user, where user ID is equal to, suppose we write this SQL query. This is an SQL query. We write select star from user, where ID is equal to 10. You're querying a table with one parameter ID. Based on that, you fetch the data. But what's happening internally? That's a question we have, right? What's happening internally? What is happening, right? So basically, firstly, I'll just do some introduction quickly and then I'll show the hands-on. Firstly, what happens is there will be first SQL parser will be there. So what will SQL parser will do is it will parse this query into parse tree, okay, and it will convert that into an abstract syntax tree that is called abstract syntax tree. So that is where it will check where ID is equal to, and it will check the condition node on the that tree, okay, and so that is what it does. So so that is the whole idea here, okay. So coming to the next part here, coming to the preprocessor, it will validate whether that table is present or not and that ID is existing or not. That is the second aspect of happening here, okay. Then third part that's very important is called optimizer. That is where you can choose the indexes and statistics, or you can do multiple path or estimate the IO cost or row count or what are internal happening is happening there. So don't worry, I'm giving little introduction. So it means now we know if you write an SQL query, internally three things are happening. Okay. So that is what happening here. So that's something interesting is that your SQL parser is first thing, next is the preprocessor, and then optimizer, right? So that's a this is a basic thing that happens. Now, if you look at here, if you see this SQL query, select star from user where ID is 10, this will be internally converted into JSON also, okay. That will convert with the key primary and rows and filtered 100 whatever it is. So it will take a query execution plan. So that query execution plan is a tree based execution, remember that. It will do a fetch, filter and output, and which tree it will use is b plus tree for traversaling, okay. So that is what happens. So then it will call the storage engine call API call called InnoDB. This is very important. I'm going to talk about more about that guy only now in this next details. Okay, it will call that person InnoDB, which will locate the index pages and store the data in the buffer and also, and then it will store every query will be stored in the redo log actually, okay. That's a log that will use for crash recovery, and also they can undo that log. So this is a basic fundamentals for a person who wants to know the SQL query, okay. So hope that is clear to everyone. So now I will start. If we write, basically everyone knows if you write insert into users, you write this basic query, right? Now what is happening internally? Now I'm going to talk about internals, okay. So I will do hands-on. So I have something internals. I'll be doing most of the things on hands-on, okay. So to do that in hands-on, so I'll explain how internally a DB actually internally stores. So there is something, every database will use something called as val, that is called write ahead logging. This is very, very important. Okay. So this is called write ahead logging. That is a technique they use to ensure the data durability and crash recovery. Before making any changes to the database, the system will first write a log of a change to that file, that is called val file, okay. then it only does the changes to the actual database. I hope everybody got this point. This is a very, very important point. If you ask me, the system actually writes first to the val file. So what is val file? So now I'm going to explain you a simple example of val file. To the all smiling coders, I'm going to demonstrate what is val file. So can you see here, I have written a function called as log val file, which will take operation table data. You can see that. So this is written in a Python code. So if you are going to call this log val file, I'll be taking the table name, data, and I'll be taking all this information. So this log val file will take the data, and I'll be writing this into, I'll open a file, okay? And that file, can you see there is a val.log file. So if you are entering any entry in the database, I'm going to store that in a log file. Now, why that is necessary? Because it will write that data in the form of JSON. It will store this record, a dictionary, in the form of JSON and store this information in the log file. This is internally happening, and that's how all your recoveries and all things are happening internally. Okay, so that's the whole idea here, guys. Okay, so that's the most important thing we are doing here. Okay, I hope everybody is understanding. So that is the most important thing about val file. It's a write ahead logging that we are demonstrating here. So let me go to the next important thing of the today important aspect is what are the 5 layers of your internally what is happening in the SQL. I'm going to demonstrate MySQL. I'm going to demonstrate you internally what's happening in every aspects. So I will just show you that code base last, where is val file located in your database. But I'm going to currently just, I have, if I want to demonstrate a val file, so what I will do here is I will be basically to demonstrate a val file, I'm just writing a function log val. You can see that. So this is a function I have written. So you can see I have, okay, let me, okay, in the log val file, one second. Okay, so this you can see here, you can see this. Suppose I have one function called insert a table. It will take, if you are writing into database, I'm writing here something like I'm calling this log file. You can see this. This log file is like a trace. It's like a output trace or something like that. So this says insert. I'm inserting. So the table name and the information I'm storing it. This I'm passing into this log val. So now if I run this program, it will generate me a val.txt file. In the same way, it will generate me a log file also. You can see that. The log file will store this all information. Okay. So this is internally it's having similar way. So I'm not saying that it is there is a screen sharing, guys. So yeah, I hope everyone can see this, right, guys? All of
We're
you,
able to see code, VS Code.
right? Sorry.
We are seeing VS Code and
Okay.
it's
I'm
presented.
showing VS Code. I'm showing VS Code only. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hope everyone can see that. Okay. So now first I'll demonstrate one code. First, let me demonstrate one basic code, and then I will just tell you the other examples. Okay. I'll hope everybody. I'll just delete this file, whatever I've done here. So even a log file also, I will just delete this. Okay. So let me go to the. Oh, sorry. Okay. This is their best internal. I think I've deleted one of the best other files. Okay, no problem. That is later we can recover. So first, let me go here. So let me first explain you what I'm going to do here. So if I am explaining, I'm writing the code in the form of internal tracing only. So listen carefully. First, I'll try to call setup DB. So in the setup DB, I will try to connect to a database file. So that database file is important here. So that is your whatever database it is. So whether it is any of the database. So it is common for yes, val file is common for MySQL and Postgres. Yes, yes, recording is available, guys. So if you are, so a lot of I mean, if you have any queries, all of you can ask in the comment box. I'm open to help you out, guys. So first I wrote a function called setupdb. It will try to connect to SQLite and just do a two basic queries in SQLite. One is drop table if it exists, otherwise create a table. That is what I'm writing in SQL query. Okay. Then let me explain. So generally everyone knows how to write. That is all we write with smile. But when I call insert into this function, I'm passing this name of the table test, and I'll pass something 1 and alpha. So if you go into the insert MVCC, so this is one setup is done. So I'll call insert MVCC. This is insert MVCC. Yes. So this will take table and ID and some value. Okay. When it takes this, all of this, when it takes all of this, okay, what is happening here? That is what the most important aspect we are going to discuss. Guys, hold on. So there is a lot of internals. I'm going to do it here. I hope you will enjoy it because I cannot demonstrate assuming because so there are so many understandings that everyone has got. So let me demonstrate with how it's going to happen here. That's with a simple example. Okay. So in this, I'll try to call log val. First, before if I'm doing any query internally, the query will also be written into val file. So in this example also, I'm calling insert MVCC. This will take a log file. Log file will be this guy. What this log file will take is operation. What type of operation am I doing in the database? That is insert. So which table are you doing? What data are you doing? This is been passed. So this information is been passed to log file. Log val will function will store operation table and data. Each entry in the database, it will log all the entry of the data in the log files. Okay, and how it is storing is it will copy all this table data operations into records. It will create a new dictionary and copy that and open a new file, and that file is, you can see that it's a log file. Into that log file it will append this data. This is what, whenever any data is inserted into database, it will actually write into val file. To demonstrate that only, this code I have demonstrated, let me run this. You can see I'm not doing any kind of thing here. Let me delete this general log file also. Okay, so I'm just deleting it here. Oh, I'm sorry, one second guys, one second, give me 1 second guys. Okay, so cool. So now, what are we are able to achieve now is we are happy that we achieved a lot of things now. So we were able to run through the code and understand how we can do a val file thing. Okay, so that I'm going to demonstrate now. Okay, so I've deleted. I can delete this log file if you want. So I want to delete this log file, let it that go. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and do my job. Okay, ready? So you can see there is no log file anything as such. So now if I'm going to call the setup DB, that's okay. When I call insert MVC, what happens? Whenever I'm inserting any data into the database, I'm actually writing the data into a val file and then writing into database. That I'm sure that I'm running this code and making you smile here. So you can, everyone here, you can have a good smile here because the moment I write this, what happens here is you can see there is actually the general entry. It means what? That is, you can assume that's a log file that is like a val information. And then I'm storing MVCC snapshot. I'll tell you that also. Then I'll use one more data for recovery state. So I'll use all the aspects of it. I've got some error. I was just not getting the some timeout error is coming. Okay, so that is database timeout error is coming. Okay, so we are able to successfully do this. That's use cases what we are able to demonstrate. Yeah, we can take some questions. I want audience to be much focused here. So if you have any questions, I'm able to show an example of what is a val file and how this is basically it is located here. Yeah, audience. Okay. Why this is not okay? So I hope it's recording or what's happening. 1 second. Okay, so that's cool. So now what we're gonna do next is we're gonna focus on we're gonna have the next understanding better. So let's now go and understand lot of things, lot of things. So when I say a lot of things now, I'm gonna talk about, so next part we are gonna talk about is so what is I mean everybody now understood what is val file and what's happening, right? Now the main 5 layers of the database. So now everybody would be wondering, let's say every of you, I mean, there are a lot of high engineers, there are a lot of unique heroes here, there are a lot of system distributed engineers, leaders, I mean, senior members, freshers, a lot of people are there, right? So everyone would be doing a system design at your level. Okay, so it's that is one thing. Okay, so now the next question is that what we will have is, so what are the main 5 core layers that any of your database has it? I mean, internally, what does they have? The first layer is called data format. So if that is actually how the changes are recorded, this is data format. That is actually a binary log structure which will have info like table, row ID, whatever action you have done, insert, update, delete. Okay. Second important is indexing and MVCC. So that is like tracking the multiple versions. Like it will allow you to do the read and write without locking, or it'll have some indexing pointing to the versions, right? Tracking your multiple versions. Okay. Then we have crash recovery. The crash recovery is how we restore after the crash. On restart, the val is replayed to apply any committed but not flush transactions. Okay, committed but not flush transaction. And then the flush logic, right? That is very important. So when the data goes away from val to the disk, okay, this is what actually happens. That is the data that goes from val to the disk. The val is flushed to disk periodically or on a commit. Okay, and generally an hands-on simulation that I want to do on Python with SQL code with this examples. Okay, with this 5 layers. I am happy that I was able to do this demonstration because most of us know the basics, so I'm not going to talk much about it. I will just tell how I want to explain you this concepts to everyone, each one of you here. Okay. So what is val for some basic engineer is that val is nothing but I'm just creating a file that is a log file, and inside the log file I'm inserting a dictionary entry. That's it. That is called val. You can tell in a simple way. We are doing that operation. Okay. So that is the use cases. So then second, so this is for a basic demonstration. I might go little in depth the next level that will come. Okay. So this is what I did for a log val thing. Okay. Then coming to the inserting, this is I'm just inserting any data. Before inserting, I'm just routing it to val file. Then I have something very, very important called recovery. I talked about recovery, right? So any recovery will, what I do is, see there, I'll try to connect to a SQLite database and see there, I'll copy the data from val.log file into the database, because that is what I do database recovery. It means what? I'll do an SQL query, but I'll open this val file, I'll loop the data in this val file, and then I'll try to check if that operation is insert, and then I'll copy this data, this line dot, maybe you can see this, my queries or the data I get is entry is having all the data and ID, that full data I'll copy into the query. So that is recovery part. So just to demonstrate in a simple example. Okay. Then coming to the insert part. So I said, right, most of the times before we insert into database, they will also store a temporary storage. That is, I'm storing a buffer storage, right? Buffer storage means I store an empty list. Inside this empty list, I will append this record of what timestamp you did transaction and what operation and which table and what data. That is a kind of buffer which we will store it. A data of a database stored in a data structure, right? I can flush that after 5 operations or something like that. That buffer also we can write down. So flushing the buffer also we can do. A flushing buffer is open the file and clear the buffer. That's I can do. We can do that buffer clearing and looping it. Okay. This is a basic code base I just demonstrated. Is one to write into val file, one is to write into the memory buffer, one is write that buffer into again val file, and then you want to get something from the val file and do it. Very simple code. It was demonstrated to make it understand how to work with the basic examples. So you can see here, I think, once again, let me run this code. Yeah. So there seems to be some error now. It was running through comfortably. One second. It was actually doing here. One second. Run this Python file. What is error I'm getting is, oh cool, one second. Okay, so here if you, okay, it's not giving us, okay, there is some kind of issue here with this code runner. One second, give me a second. Okay, so you can see there is now what happening is, you can see there is a sample DB created. Okay, that is you cannot see, but your log entry is done. Can you see your log entry is done, guys? Right, your log entry is done. So that is what happened. So log entry is successfully done for us, and that's a super thing we have done now here. Okay, so your log entry is happened for every insert operations and insert your whatever I've done. I've run through this code. Okay, and so that's a simple example. Any questions here? Otherwise, what I would do is, once again, give me one simple moment. I have improved it into this level. So you can even try this use case also once again. Okay, this is for my, one second. This is for my Postgres database, which I've done. I think one second, there was one more guy. Okay. Yeah, so that's just fine. This is fine, no problem. We are good to go. So you can see this actually has got our data. Okay, so that's just about this example. So we will demonstrate little in depth. So I will do the next thing, the next examples. So any questions on this example? I mean, just to demonstrate, the code with that use cases. Any questions from this examples? Yeah, smiling coders. Okay, we got the DB valve log has been created and we have got this information. So now, so to make to the better understanding, we have done coding and we have just understood that how we can do this. Flash logic is when data is going from val to disk and it is happening. So this is what happens here. So this is the use cases. So now we can go to the what happened is we are going to little more in depth here. So what's happening is how it works together is if a user inserts anything, a val log is created. Okay, and val is flushed to the disk even before updating the actual table. Remember this because val is the one which is flushed to the disk before updating the actual table. The changes are applied in the memory, that is generally initially they'll apply in the memory, that is buffer pool, not in the actual DB. Okay, when we do a commit trigger, then only the flush confirmation happens. Okay, if the crash happens, the val is replayed to bring the database to the consistent state. This is actually happening with a simple demonstration. Any questions, smiling coders here?